I spoke to Congressman Carlos Curbelo about almost reaching the magic number of 218 in the House to vote on DACA.
This process is about Congress doing its job. The immigration debate has raged for 12 years in our country, and there has not been a single vote on the House floor as long as that debate has been going on. This is a debate or a discussion that was started by President George W. Bush in 2005, 2006. So what House members are doing is taking matters into their own hands and saying enough is enough. And by the way, this is not about any single piece of legislation. It isn't about a wall. It isn't about what some call amnesty. It's about having a debate on immigration, considering multiple bills on the House floor, giving members the opportunity to advance their ideas, to convince their colleagues that their way is the best way to go forward, and hopefully at the end, getting something to the president's desk, a compromise piece of legislation that increases border security, that modernizes our immigration laws the way a lot of Americans want, and that also provides a future, delivers a future for the victims of the immigration system, young immigrants who were brought to this country as children and who today are paying taxes and contributing to our great country. That's what this is about.
You still need, at this point, 5 Republican votes. How confident are you that you can get them?
We're having very good conversations, and every day there are more members who get closer and closer to signing because a lot of people here are frustrated. It's not just us. It's not members from communities where there's a big immigrant population. It's people from all over the country, even districts where there are very few immigrants. They know that the American people deserve a solution. They know that we should no longer use this issue to tear the country apart the way we've seen in campaign after campaign. So I think that this week will be critical for this effort, and I'm confident that we're going to get there.
If you do that magic number, then what?
It means that in June, 4 bills will come to the House floor for debate and consideration. A very conservative bill, because again, we think all members should have their product on the floor and a chance to convince everyone else that it's the best way forward. So one of the bills is very conservative. There's a more liberal-leaning bill that just focuses on the DACA population and doesn't address border security. I don't think either of those 2 bills will pass, but I think they deserve the opportunity. And then we have 2 additional slots. One for the Speaker of the House. He can go to the White House, work on a bill with them, and bring it to the floor. And then we also have a bipartisan compromise bill that marries border security, stronger border security, guaranteeing that the U.S. will have operational control over its southwest border, something that's very important given all the drug trafficking and human trafficking that takes place there, and that also delivers a path to legalization, a bridge into the legal immigration system to dreamers, to these young immigrants. So those are the 4 bills, and may the best one win. Yeah, and then the Senate can choose to act or not, and if we do get something to the president's desk, of course he can always choose to sign it or to veto it, but the House must be willing to engage on this issue, have a debate, and have votes.
So my next question is twofold. Which one do you support, and which one do you realistically think can pass?
So there's 2 that I know that I can definitely support. One is the DREAM Act, because I've always supported affording these young immigrants a permanent solution, a way to stay in our country and continue contributing to it. The other is the bipartisan bill that combines stronger border security with this DACA fix. And potentially, I could support Speaker Ryan's bill. We don't know what that's going to look like yet, but I think he does have a very good opportunity to deliver a compromise with the White House's endorsement, which would weigh heavily, right? Because if members know that this could actually be signed by the president, I think those of us who actually want to solve this problem, not just have the debate, even though that's important, we would be inclined to support that. So it's a dynamic process. It's unpredictable in many ways, but that's how the House should operate. Not everything should be scripted. We should debate issues in the country, try to convince each other, have our disagreements, and hopefully at the end, meet in the middle and compromise. That's what we're trying to achieve with this process that we've outlined.
And ultimately, the goal is to get something to the President of the United States. I know recently you met with the President in Key West. You talked about sea level rise and other issues facing your constituents. What do you think is something that he would sign, that he would favor?
So we kind of have an idea what that looks like, because a few months ago the White House put forward an outline, and their outline, especially on the Dreamer side, I think was very generous. They agreed to providing a path to citizenship for nearly 2 million young immigrants who were brought to this country as children. On the immigration enforcement and border security side, it's ambitious. I think it's $25 billion for a border wall. A lot of colleagues here, especially Democrats and some centrist Republicans, probably think that number's too high. Some of the cuts to legal immigration trouble some of us. We all want to limit and end illegal immigration, but we do think our country should have a robust legal immigration system, which is also important for our economy. So there will have to be a negotiation there. But you know, as tough as some of the president's rhetoric has been on immigration, I've been critical of some of it, I give the White House credit for putting forward a plan, for being willing to negotiate, for showing that they also believe that dreamers, the young immigrants who were brought to this country as children, do deserve a future in the United States. They've made their position known, and now it's time for House members, all of us, to make our position known and to have this debate.
Speaking of House members, there are some who say that Speaker Ryan's position is, at this point, a little tenuous. Do you feel that he can hold on to his speakership?
I'm confident that he will. Paul Ryan, whether you agree with him or not, everyone in this House, even Democrats, agree that he's an honest, decent, sincere man who really does his best to make sure this institution functions with integrity and coherently. And it's a tough job. It's a tough job to lead the House Republican Conference. That's about 240 members. And really to lead the entire House, because the Speaker is the Speaker of the House, not just of the majority party. I think his position is secure. He has strong support among Republicans. Obviously, he's not running for re-election. That did weaken him. As soon as someone announces they're leaving this place, their power begins to recede. But I think he's in a strong position in the conference, and I really think he's the best person to lead the House until the end of this year. And then next year, we're obviously, both parties will have leadership elections. We should have those elections next year, not now in the middle of this 115th Congress.
Okay, and finally, you were very vocal about two people that Border and Customs, they were questioning because they were speaking Spanish.
Look, I support strong immigration laws. We need to promote legal immigration. It's not okay for anyone to come to our country illegally. Obviously, if it's a refugee, someone seeking asylum, there's a process for that. But for government agents to question people, to detain people because they were speaking a foreign language, whether that be Spanish or French or German or any other language, is just wrong. Our community is a diverse community. I speak to my daughters in Spanish because I want them to learn Spanish, and I'm proud of my roots too. But that should not make us suspicious people just because we're speaking Spanish. There's a lot of young people who are learning a second language at school, and they practice with their friends out in the open. Are they suspects now too? That's wrong. We cannot live in a police state. Citizens cannot be questioned, interrogated, just because they happen to be speaking another language. And that's one of the reasons why we really need to solve this immigration question in our country, because obviously it's torn us apart. It's led a lot of Americans to scapegoat immigrants, and it's made some immigrants resentful. We need to solve this so that the country can start healing on this immigration issue. These instances where we see border protection agents questioning people because they're speaking a foreign language, that's a symptom. That's a symptom of an underlying problem we have in our country, this immigration conflict. The Congress needs to help solve it so that we can turn the page as a country.
That was Congressman Carlos Curbelo at the Capitol in his office in Washington, D.C. So to come here on NBC 6 Impact, our lighter look at politics coming up next.